Did you put the time in?
Oh, got it.
So we'll see.
Hey, we have a quorum. I'm going to call the meeting
So we
to
may-
order.
We may just skip the video and just
Yes,
email the
okay.
link.
Hey, and roll call. And we have Mila, and Amanda, and Lauren, and myself.
Here.
And agenda changes, requests or deletions. We're going to delete item 5 off the agenda because that's not going to be ready until early next year, from my understanding. So no need to discuss it right now. Otherwise, we have a packed agenda anyway. Hey, any oral communications from the public? Okay, next item is approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was, I believe, 3 months ago,
May 19th.
May 19th. 4 months ago. Any changes, additions, or deletions to the minutes? I have a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the
Okay,
minutes.
and a second.
Second.
Okay, Amanda seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
No or abstain? Okay, motion passes. And now the staff comments.
Wonderful. And in the interest of time, we'll abbreviate it a little bit. We were going to share a video, but perhaps we'll share the link instead. So Rondo, our beautiful piece that graced the front of City Hall Plaza by Bruce Beasley for almost a year. It was removed August 25th. We're very fortunate, or Bruce is very fortunate, that it's going to remain in the neighborhood. So it's going into the collection of the DSSA Museum. And his exhibition opens toward the end of this month, as I recall. So we should send out details about that. So that was my farewell to Rondo. I was kind of sad to see it go.
It was a great piece.
The next item,
You got to wear that nifty yellow vest.
Oh yeah, we were there.
safety first, boots. I had removed my hard hat, but I was wearing one while it was in the air, just for the
good.
public record.
That's a great photo.
Oh.
It really is. Look at the sky.
Okay, next item.
Still.
Okay, so Chime, we were gonna play the video for you from the event, but we will email that out. It is also on our public art program page if anyone wanted to see it. But Chime was removed September 2nd, so you may have noticed this evening as you came into City Hall that the plaza seems a little bare after both of our installations are gone. Version 2.0 of Charm, which has been under development at Autodesk, will be on display during the Market Street Prototyping Festival. And that takes place in October, early October.
I believe the
Do you have
second
the date?
week of October.
So that's really exciting. We're planning to go. It's on Thursday through Saturday, and I can send a link to that if anyone else is interested in going. So the next item is the next installation on King Plaza, which this is not the actual installation, but similar in look and feel. Aaron Lee Benson and his team will be on the site October 18th to begin work on his site-specific piece called the Reading Fence. The construction will take a couple of days and will hopefully be completed by the time of the next Public Art Commission meeting. We are discussing with the artist if perhaps he would come as a special item at the beginning of the next meeting to talk to the commission and give a little bit larger presentation about his previous work. But it should only take a couple of days, and it should be near completion by the time we meet next month.
What part of the plaza is it going to be in?
It's actually going to wind through the trees on the opposite side of the plaza. So there will be, you see the square in the middle, a smaller version of that with an integrated bench. And then it's going to wind through the trees in a serpentine and then have a circular element off the back end of the planter.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Which is perfect timing because they're going to reseed and repair the grass in the springtime. So we're all clear.
Good.
Okay.
Farewell, Rhonda.
And then I just wanted to make a couple of brief announcements. The Oliver Ranch Tour, which we were briefly discussing earlier, this Sunday is completely sold out. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have two docents. Steve Oliver, we believe, is going to be on site and come greet us. So if you have questions for him, be ready. because he's only going to be with us a little while. It's the Geyserville property is really incredible. The tour is a little over 2 miles, and it should be a fun day. I also have a few staff updates. As you may have noticed, Nadia may be stepping out of the workforce for a couple of months, so she'll be out about 4 months. We were very happy for her, but of course this has created some strain on how we're going to get things done. So we have Amy and Peter here this evening doing a test run, so they're going to help just with the meetings and the minutes. We have Lisa Reuter here, who some of you met at the retreat. She is our intern for the fall, who's going to be with us 2 days a week, focused on the Code Art event, that NEA grant-funded project that we're doing in June. And then we also have another staff member who's coming on twice a week, Brittany Amonte, and so she will be filling in with a lot of what Nadia takes on right now, so really helping me with the workload there. So if you're around the Art Center, come say hi, come meet everybody. But that's it for staff updates and for staff comments.
All right, thank you. All right, first action item is 2600 El Camino Real. Final review for public art by Corin Kolstad.
Rolstad. So 2600 El Camino Real, as you mentioned, this is a final review. The preliminary review took place in March. And you may recall it's a site, of course, along El Camino, adjacent to the soccer fields at Page Mill. The property is within the Stanford Research Park, which is why Commissioner Silverstein is not with us this evening. She will be joining us later because she wanted to recuse herself from the Stanford items. So the existing building, go back for a second. So this is a 4-story building which will replace an existing 6-story building with the approximate same square footage. The project anticipates a formal ARB review this fall, and once construction commences, it is estimated to take 16 months to complete. So just as a refresher, these were some of the goals of the site, and you see the dynamics and the view over the soccer fields. And the adjacent buildings opposite the soccer fields, those are still under construction right now. And so the side that we really focused on with this project was this planter area in the front of the building. There are some circulation constraints. You know, we did sort of play with the idea of having something more freestanding. It really just the site is really, it's tight as far as circulation and visibility with the drive aisle there. So we really decided to stay focused on that planter. And so when we previously came to the Public Art Commission, the commission asked that we think about doing something that's unexpected. The word flow came up a lot. So the geometry of the building, there's this desire to have something that would flow, maybe evoked natural elements. I think water was brought up. So there was also the idea of consider using the glass on the building, and again, softening the rectilinear lines. And so we took that input and we went back to our pre-qualified artist pool. We looked through more than 200 artists in that pool. 13 were brought back to Sandhill Properties to review. 3 of those artists were interviewed, and it was a really, there were some really interesting choices and some great options there. And we were really fortunate to bring Corin Rolstad on board, and we're really excited to have her here this evening to speak to her proposal. And you do have some booklets that she put together. And from there, I will turn it over to Corin, who I'm happy to introduce. We're really excited she's here. We also have Allison Koo here from Sandhill Properties, if there are any broader questions about the development.
Thank you, everyone, for inviting me and taking the time, and of course, thank you for choosing me. I never know, 200 people, that's pretty good. And I'm a girl. That's even greater. Does everybody have a presentation.
They all
and,
have a packet.
and you can keep these yourself, but I just wanted to run through a typical presentation and the presentation for our project. Quick thing. I'm from Seattle, Washington. I have been in public art, even before it was called public art, for 41 years. So,
What was it called before public art?
I was. That's a really good question. I was trained as an industrial designer, structural engineering, and architecture.
I see.
So I was 20 when I left school after 5 years of university, and my first client was Boeing. And I was working on environments for food service areas with Walter Dover and Teague. I was sent all over the country with the State Department. I did big suspended projects in South Africa. I was like still with my patent leathers and my little lace socks and being sent around the world. And as time went by, I decided to go into healthcare, do more healthcare, and then the state of Washington started the Percent for Art program, and so now we call it public art. And public art is not because you use public funds. I want to explain that to you. Public art is because is because of access. Mm-hmm. So, like what you're doing here, you're having public-private, and I get in the early days really dressed down by Oklahoma legislator to basically justify myself, and the only thing I could think of was I give jobs to Americans, and really good ones too. So this is very typical. It's called illuminated grasses. Before we look at it, I'll tell you just very quickly my voice, because I was trained as an engineer and an architect. You will see a very architectural quality. You'll see a very animated quality. But one thing that is a key point to my work, is how old I am. I studied under Buckminster Fuller and some of the really great people. It was a wonderful time to study. And I use Buckminster Fuller developed the theory about the use of component parts, elements, and systems. Of course, he built his geodesic dome, and this is the basis of my work. So you're going to see very simple shapes, but lots of little materials, which are the components put together on like one tree, which is an element, and then the system is the whole piece. So we can. Do you want me to? So I like language, and so when you do a presentation like this. This would be an RFP, a request for proposal. You have your biography and your education and awards. I'm graphically oriented. This is my work to the right. And then on blue, I always do projects that are over, some projects are 800,000 and all, and it's a business. And so your Public Arts Commission wants to know that you can handle those kinds of. So going through these really quickly, these are a lot of my recent projects. You can see the component parts. It's at the Walla Walla Regional Airport in Walla Walla in wine country. As I tell people, I do have my priorities. And this is day and night, and there's 72 pieces, and these pieces are, this is at the tarmac, and then the next, I'll just do this one.
There you go.
The next one is at the front. There's a big parkway as you're going into Dunham Cellars. And I use very lightweight substrates, cast resins, and laser cutting, and aluminum, and powder coating. But as you can see, one piece would look very interesting, but all of them together really tell the story.
Is that this?
No, that's a skyline, actually. Yeah, that's kind of, we do them in different tones and colors for each one. I'm a machine, at the studio. Mandela Sunrise at the University of Texas at El Paso. It's the middle of a roundabout. It is, they use Bhutanese culture for all their architecture, and their sand mandalas in the library, and the museum. And so I made a sand mandala that went up to the sky, and it is the most photographed, and was the most photographed piece of art in the state of Texas. last year.
Congratulations.
Partly because the kids all run in there in the middle of the night and take pictures of each other. It blew up Instagram. I didn't even know what Instagram was. So I just was in Lubbock, Texas at Texas Tech University, and I was finishing installing this on Monday and Tuesday.
Monday? Oh, wow.
Again,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, isn't that a beautiful piece? I'm so happy with this. This is a whole plaza. This is a School of Business Technology. This is what a public artist does. We retell their story. I'm not a studio artist. Those little pieces are dichroic and they twist in the wind, and it's a plaza. And these walkways, now there's gardens and grasses, have stainless steel quotations and languages on them that the students chose. So, and it is the most different piece in the collection of Texas Tech. Children's Museum. You can see shadowing, using colored lights, sandhill cranes. This is called Sandpiper Pavilions. And this is up almost 8,000 feet in Park City. And the last piece that's going to go in this kind of voice is community college in Philadelphia, right downtown. So, and I'm really scared to death of that project. It's like, how am I going to do that? And I say this all the time. So illuminated grasses came to us. We make an artist statement. You can read that at your own. And
It's in your packet.
in your packet, but what I'm doing is developing these grasses that actually change from the that get smaller and then up larger, and it is the translucent acrylic that is attached to powder-coated posts, but as you can see, it's moving. It's as if the wind comes by and moves them. There will be It's bioretention, right? And there will be grasses planted in it. This is kind of the big deal. This is what I'm dealing with all over the country. Clemson University, you name it, bioretention, that's the big word. So this would be the inside. So my work tends to have these different views and different cultures as depending on which way you're looking at it, from down the street or behind where people are sitting. I like the idea of this kind of gateway fence that's not really a fence between the roadway.
It's a busy area.
It is a busy area. We've gone up and down. I think what my hotel is somewhere around there.
It is, and there is a real desire to create a little bit of a screen without creating a wall.
Yes.
And inserting that pop of color and a sense of movement. And something that evokes natural material, but in more industrial materials, really seemed to respond to a lot of the input that we had received previously.
And the translucent material is really translucent. They're beautiful colors, and we do have a better range of colors. It's very painterly, and that's as close as painting. I studied under the great Jacob Lawrence from the Harlem School. I am the worst painter, and I know. 4 years of studying under him, and most of the time he was saying, "Miss Rolstad, you have yellow paint up your nose." But he that man taught me about the story, and I became what I became. So you're looking, and of course these are drawings, they're concepts. We're drawing like even on doing 3-dimensional drawings, but we're really making the owner, the Arts Commission, yourselves, the community, understand where we're coming from, and that, we're not only, I'm not only an artist, but I'm a builder, and I'm a storyteller for your community. Even though I will leave, you can build your own story for it. Then, just the details of the translucency and the piece, and then bones. This is my favorite part. Is how in the heck are we going to put this thing together? And the same thing when you saw with Texas Tech, and those kind of high winds and like it's always it's a puzzle, and I'm happy to say that I think I'm really good at it, if that's okay to say.
You seem to have a good track record.
I do have a good track record, and then of course. This is, the grown-up world. These are stamped engineering drawings. These aren't for this particular job. It's a sample, but we do, and we have, 34 pages of calculations, which are actually kind of fun to read. Break down our materials and all, and then maintenance being really important. And all the materials that I use are recycled. The aluminum's recycled. The resin sheets of stretch, acrylic is recycled. The acrylics are used. They come out of China. They're used a lot in Europe and Canada. They're so strong, 7 times than tempered glass. They are used as substrates for buildings these days. So that's what we're doing. And it seems like the development company is very happy. Are you happy?
We are.
Thank you.
So I think another interesting aspect to this is that the artwork responds to the architecture. So one of the things we all spoke about when we saw the renderings was that, you know, the grasses start low and then kind of emerge as they come out from under that awning. And so it gave it more of an organic look and feel and a movement.
Also the tonality of using, you know, those kind of hot colors against a building that is what we call international style, you know, which is...
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, it is. It's called international style.
So you learned something else today.
Yeah, where the Europeans and Canadians had, and actually in South America also, developed a more geometric paradigm, but it's also layered, but, you know, white on white, tone on tone. So, and then using materials that are textured. So, makes me sound fancy, doesn't it?
It does.
So with that,
Any
we're
questions
open for
anybody
questions.
has?
Okay, thank you very much. Any questions? Well, thank you very much for coming. Do you know Barbara Goldstein?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. She just did our public art plan.
Did
master,
she?
Yeah, our master plan. I work with Barbara in San Jose a lot.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like this project. I like the uplighting that's going to be at night. I think that's going to be pretty cool
Yes, it is.
for the people driving down the street. And like Elise was saying, and you too, it's a wall, but it's not a wall. So you have that privacy, but yet you can still see through that and look out into the street and stuff. And it's great to be able to probably sit down and have lunch or something behind that.
And an animation, so when you're driving by, you're going to have a different feeling about it than when you're walking by. And then when you're looking down the middle of it, it does curve. If you've noticed the drawing of the plan layout, there is a curve around
Yes.
on the architecture. There we go.
So there you can see the geometry.
So
of the center
we'll
from the-
do that, and you know, we had to work with the overhangs and all, so that just allowed us to keep the piece moving. It's a simple piece. I think it's just a simple, elegant piece.
Two questions I have. One, I call the yankability. If somebody goes and yanks on one of those, is it going to be a problem? Or if kids are in there stomping around?
Well, they're going to have a hard time stomping around inside a very high wall. It's almost a wall size, so that's a bio retention.
Okay.
And so most of the time it's going to be filled with water, and then there will be grasses coming out. The grasses some very beautiful grass, which I really enjoy. I like that better than some of the green low growing. And so it's going to be hard to climb in and climb up. I have found in all my years of doing this, and we discussed this, is that young kids, including just, if you saw the trees that look like a river in front of the Children's Museum, they use as skateboards, and bicycles have never hit any one of the trees at all. There is a really interesting psychological culture when you start putting public art, especially when it's colored and it was integrated into your pedestrian corridor rather than a pedestal piece, which is viable.
Yeah, it looks as part of the building. It's not just stuck on.
Yeah, it's not stuck on, but it has a mass, it has a movement, it has a direction. Now I have my professor cap on, and I find that people are extremely respectful, and kids.
And I like the low maintenance thing, where you just power wash it, and then you also said rain.
Not
We've had a
hard
problem-
power, medium
Yeah, okay.
power.
But then
Okay.
also rain, but we've had a problem with rain lately around here, so that may not It's a real option to clean, but the maintenance part of it I like too.
It's very easily maintained.
Very low maintenance, really.
And those panels, those leaves, they're not going to break. I mean, it's nearly impossible to break them. They're used as structural substrates on buildings. You know, I mean, they carry their own structure.
Right.
So, thank you very much. That's good insights.
Any questions? Any other questions? Comments?
It'll be interesting to see what the color of those leaves is, because when you look at, the printouts.
I know,
It's hard to tell, right?
I had
With
my
the
samples,
translucent-
and they were stolen from me by the arts commissioner yesterday or this morning in Salt Lake.
Oh.
So I personally barely know where I'm at, but but I'm sending a box with the colors.
Oh, fine.
And
We will have samples.
you will have samples, and
Good,
with
that's
also
great.
the powder coating colors also. So you will have those to look at and understand the translucency. They really do pick up ambient light, just gorgeous. It really is gorgeous.
bet.
It's no one's accused me of being afraid of color.
It'd be nice to have color there.
Yep.
And the movement is so important.
A lot of color's not used in public art, because of the access to certain materials and depending on when you were educated. But I don't know. I think it's going to work very well for your space.
It's exciting.
I have a comment. It's just I think from the scale of the neighborhood, given how many changes have been happening in the California Avenue area, this piece is just really wonderful. And I think about, there's the natural grasses that are landscaped around the soccer field, but then when you go to California Avenue around Country Sun, there's the mural with the poppies and the actual sunshades, and that are public art. Those are more literal things. You guys, field of flowers and these flower umbrellas. But it feels like this is consistent with the overall area.
Thank you.
So I think that will help the neighborhood be more cohesive. So I'm excited about that. In addition to how beautiful it is, it's just like from a pedestrian perspective.
There'd be this, really, if I was like today, I was just walking in between your alleyways rather than down the street. Before I came here, it was really kind of nice, and but people will look. And it will give a gateway presence that I think will be very special. And instead of saying the name of the building, I'm sorry, I don't mean this, but they'll say in front of the yellow grasses or whatever, because the building is a beautiful canvas for that work. So.
Another piece of wayfinding.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So, and we as public artists, we are not studio artists. It's basically, as I told it before, we're fancy engineers and architects. We're kind of very fancy. I'm a fancy girl. I shouldn't probably say that too very often.
Okay, well, great, thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. You can keep these so if you want to show to anybody.
It's good for us to have on.
Okay.
I'll keep this in here and
Yeah.
Going to make a motion for the final review for public art by Corin Kolstad for 2600 El Camino Real and approval of that project. You have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Who got the second? Okay.
Give it to Lauren.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? All right, thank you. Thank you
you
very
very
much.
That's great. It's going to be great.
Thank you.
I really wondered what we were going to do in that space, because
Really?
when we brainstormed about it, it seemed so tight. And so now it's just...
Well, you gave us good guidelines. You started the story. I mean, and if I leave, and that's what I've left with you, is that understanding about public art is, it is a story. And you have your brilliant public, arts coordinator and commissioner who looks at artists and pairs that. It's not for the faint of heart what we do. So thank you very much.
It's exciting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe travels.
I know.
Thank you.
To wherever you're going. Yeah, where are you going now?
I'm back going home.
Oh, okay.
I have 2 cats. I think that missed me.
If it's
And a
Thursday,
bottle of
must be
wine.
Thursday.
Sorry about that. Okay. Well, thank you very, very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thanks.
All right, the next project is 32.
Yeah, I saw that. I know.
23 Hanover Street. And I is Gordon, what's there?
Huther.
Huther, for this project at 3223 Hanover Street.
Yes, so, this is a project, steep slope property. Came before the preliminary review in March for this project. There are 2 existing buildings on the site. They'll be replaced with 2 new buildings of the same square footage. Pardon me? Oh, sorry, 1 of the same square footage. The property is located on Hanover Street, right next to the Ballpark bike path. So you may recall from the renderings here, there was a lot of discussion about the butterfly geometry, the butterfly roof. This project is also anticipating ARB review this fall. Go ahead. And so as a quick reminder, we did discuss some of the circulation, but just to orient you, right? So you see Hanover Street along the top. This is currently a parking lot. It will be a landscaped area. And then the Ballpark bike path comes out right at the edge of the property. And so there was a lot of discussion about that entrance being the primary place where people would see it along Hanover Street, wanting to maximize the visibility. And there was a desire to play on that iconic geometry, and also wanting to bring some attention to that entrance to the bike path, because it is, if people aren't sure where it is a little hidden. It comes up on you quickly. So there was some desire to not only cater to the cyclists who are going by it, but also somehow mark the entrance to that bike path and play with the slope, because the building is really far up the hill from where the bike path is. And so just as a reminder, these were some of the renderings from Hanover Street. And briefly, we had explored maybe bringing something in a little bit further on the entrance, but really it makes more sense to stay on Hanover, that it's more of a vehicular experience or a cycling experience. So the input, of course, was to maximize visibility, stay on the Hanover entrance, tie into the butterfly architecture, be mindful of how the piece is going to be experienced. Explore playing with color and play with scale, which were somewhat limited because of the budget constraints. So, the art selection process for this one, we were able to look at a larger number of artists for this pool. We brought 14 of them back to Sandhill Properties. 2 were selected. We had more in-depth conversations with them and ultimately decided that Gordon Huther was the right artist for the project. Gordon Huther, there are a couple of catalogs on the table. He has done projects in all kinds of different settings. So in healthcare facilities, hospitals, garages. He just recently had a parking garage he did in
Santa Rosa?
Was it
Morgan Hill?
Morgan Hill. Thank you. I was like,
Yeah.
not Milpitas, Morgan Hill.
Yeah.
And he created, because it was a parking garage, he created this large tarantula, because they have a lot of them in Morgan Hill, but it's all made out of vintage car headlights, and it looks like a jewel. So he does have a playful nature about him, but as you'll see in some of his samples of artwork, he works in a real diversity of media. He does really have a love for working with glass, which you can really play with color. And he's very adaptable, and he really does create everything to be very site specific. So here's an example of a piece in Novato. His is you see the Corten steel on the side. Because we had talked about perhaps creating something that was more linear, since it's a vehicular experience or a cycling experience. A lot of the samples we're going to show you now sort of relate to the site that we're working with on Hanover. And here's just a detail. And so this is a piece he's doing in Vail, Colorado. Again, really has a gift for playing with light, even when it's the Corten steel. Understands the play of light and shadows and how something will be experienced, either from a vehicle or from a car or from on foot.
Looks better at night.
This is a large glass installation that he did for a private residence in Carmel. If you look at the very top of the screen, you can see you actually can see the water from this view. I'm not sure how much you can see from their actual residence, but the water wall has LED lights, so it slightly changes hues of color.
Mm-hmm.
There's another view of it. This is a rather large installation he did for John Muir Medical Center in Walnut Creek.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's been reproduced a lot of different places. It's a really great project and has been really widely recognized. Similar idea, though, playing here with the combination of glass and Corten and the lighting to create a kind of screening mechanism, but there's a real lightness to it, and it has an interesting play during the day and the night. He likes to play with those shadows. And then this is something completely different, where he's playing with color with the powder coated steel. This is in Salt Lake City. And so here we get into some of the glass work. This is a piece he did in Germany in 2009. Here you can see a lot of the use of that dichroic glass. And there are glass rods, and I think there's a detail after this.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Gordon really likes to use glass. It's a lot more sturdy than people assume it is. Now it's used in architecture all the time. But it has a real durability and a lightness to it that really seems to attract him. Here's another piece, playing with color, Florida. He's done installations all over the world. And he was very sorry he couldn't join us this evening. So he sends his apologies. So I'm sorry you got me instead of Gordon tonight, but we'll try and find a time for you all to meet him. So he came up with a concept for this particular project on Hanover called Aperture. All right, so thinking about the opening, thinking about playing with light, that input about playing with color, playing with the slope, playing with the geometry of the building. And so let's move forward. So the location, as you can see, it's closer to that ballpark path, but it will also be right next to the vehicular entrance to the property. So it'll be a wayfinding marker both for the entrance to the property, but also as people are coming down the hill on their bike, it's a marker to turn right after the sculpture. And so here you see a schematic view of the piece. There is stainless steel in front with the opening. There is the dichroic glass in the middle, and then the etched glass. And so you'll get a lot of play with the shape and color, both in the day and the night. So here's a sample of the dichroic glass, and you'll notice as you play with it, sometimes if the light's on the other side of it, it's one color, and if it's behind you, it's another color. So the glass will appear to be different depending on the position of the sun and what shadows are cast on it. That's not one we're using. And then we also have a brushed aluminum piece. So this is just a sample of the brushed aluminum that would have the aperture opening. So you would see those two interplay. And then we also have a sample of the fogged glass. And this one's rather heavy, so my apologies. Amanda, can you handle it? It could double as a cheese plate, but we'll get to that later. So let's go on to the next rendering. So here you get a sense of what it would look like with the driveway entry to your right and Hanover continuing on the left. So you see it does follow the slope of the property, but where it's actually sited, if you're coming from down the hill, up the hill, you would experience the sculpture and then the buildings would emerge. Mm-hmm. And so that's a night view. And so we haven't determined exactly if the colors will perhaps change to give a little bit more pop and diversity in the evening, or how we're going to do that. So we haven't exactly decided that, but there would be a nighttime presence to the artwork. And so that's a view looking from the ballpark corner of the property up, and then you see the entrance just on the far side, and then that's an evening view of what the piece would look like. And that's it.
That's quite big.
It is. It's quite big. It would the glass only comes in certain scales, so it would be several panels that go together, but you really wouldn't be able to read the seams.
All right, great, thank you. Any questions, comments? This is cool.
Yes,
Is it stainless steel that they're using, or is it brushed aluminum?
I believe he decided he was going to go with the stainless.
Okay. But it's going to look like this.
It will look like that.
Any other questions, comments?
Oh, thank you.
What about the Sand Hill property? What do they think?
I don't know, Allison. What do you think? You love it. Yeah. I don't think they would want it to come forward if they didn't love it. It's their piece.
Well, I like the size of it for one thing. If that's really, say the guy's 6 foot tall, and we're talking about what, 8, 9,
It's
10
estimated
feet.
it would be, I think it was 8 feet 2 inches, something
Okay.
like that. It would just be over 8 feet at its highest point. And it would have a little base to it, but there would be some landscaping, grasses and whatnot. So it would help give it a nice presence.
Yeah, I need the scale because I think it could get lost in that area there.
Big
If
property.
it's too small. Any other comments, questions? Yeah, I really like this project as well. I think it's a good treatment for the area. The
The
eye-catching.
buildings with the top of the buildings are like that too, the butterfly effect, so that's similar. It'd be interesting to see it.
Well, that was
And
some of the idea, was that as you come up the hill, you would see this, and then you would see the butterfly roofs emerge as well. So, so I think it'll be really
Ties
effective.
in. It's nice, and there's no signage going right there or anything in that particular. Okay, yeah, that's nice.
Great. Okay, need a motion to approve this project at 3223 Hanover Street. Get a motion from somebody?
I move that we approve the project at Hanover Street, 3223 Hanover Street,
Okay.
by artist Gordon Huther.
Huther, correct. Good.
Okay, second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Hey, and all those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much.
Wonderful.
Another great project.
Thank you.
Now, all right.
Thank you, Allison. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm very excited about what's
Hey, we can call Dara back in, right?
She wasn't feeling well, so she left.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right, so the next project is Charleston Arasadero Transit Corridor. And Susan Zacola?
Yes.
Zacola.
So, just a quick reminder about this project. This came several months ago. The Charleston Arrastradero Transportation Corridor is 2.6 miles. It's a very long corridor with a very limited art budget. So we know we're going to need someone who's going to be creative to try and to integrate with the design team and really make use of some of the line item budget elements of the streetscape. So we're just going to quickly take you through. These were the project goals for the streetscape project, which is something that we kept in mind as we were evaluating potential artists for this project. We pulled artists from our pre-qualified pool. We've gotten great use out of that pool.
Great. Totally.
So go ahead. So just a reminder, the art budget's only $90,000 for this large project. And so the idea was that the artists would join the design team and really look to integrate for some of those standard elements. So for instance, they want to do creative crosswalks in some of these, take the budget for that creative crosswalk, add a little bit of art budget, and the artist could potentially do something more impactful. So you could take that $90,000 and wind up with something far greater, that would really be woven throughout that corridor. So here was the criteria we used in our artist selection. So of course, artistic excellence, we want to look at their previous body of work, suitability to the streetscape project. So we want to make sure we're not picking, just an artist who does watercolors. No offense to watercolors, but we need a different skill set here. The artist's approach to concept development and process. So that's something we asked of them when we did the interviews. So the process, the panel reviewed 20 artists. 5 artists were interviewed, and then Susan Zoccola was selected. The selection panel included from the commission, Jim McDowell, Linda Gates, who is the project landscape architect, Linda Lumish, who is a member of the community, who was very excited about working on this, comes from a design and creative background. Charles Coates, who is one of our Coverly artists, and Raina Halpern, who's the director of Arts and Sciences. So that was our selection panel. And so you can see Susan has quite a healthy career in public art, including a recent piece which just by chance Vice Chair Miyagi sent me this email, said, gee, have you seen this really great project illuminating this tunnel? And it was Susan Zoccola. So we can go forward and show a couple of her previous work. So Grass Blades, this is one in 2002 in Seattle. I don't know what it is, all the Seattle artists. There are a lot of them in Seattle. It's kind of interesting. And so these large pieces do slightly bend and move in the wind just because of their length. And this was the piece that that Ben Miyagi did send to me and said, wow, have you seen this? So here's something that she did in Campbell, and really trying to make those corridors a little brighter, a little lighter, giving you a little bit more whimsy. Literally sort of dangling fruit to bring people through underneath those underpasses, but very creative. And this is a project in Everett, Washington. So, and this was one of the pieces that really caught the attention of the panel, because what she did in this situation was took a very, very modest budget and used existing light posts and simply added this element of the lights. And so it does have sort of a whimsical daytime presence that it makes it feel more festive during the day, and then at night you have the lighting. But then if you notice on the nighttime view on the sidewalk, there were also projections. So there's a little projector at the top of the pole that has different patterns that are on the street. So literally animating the sidewalk, very limited budget. She's extremely creative with that, and that's something we heard over and over again when I called into her references, and that really came through in her interview. And so here's another piece. So you just get a sense of her style. Go ahead. Okay. So that's it for that particular Charleston or Rostradera corridor. So of course we have no proposal at this time. What we're asking the commission to do is to go ahead and approve Susan Zoccola to come on board as the project artist. And once she has developed a concept, that concept then would come back to the commission for approval before she gets into fabrication and installation. Cool. So that's what staff is requesting.
So I have a question. So I live in the neighborhood adjacent to this corridor. It's cool for me to comment on it. Like,
if your residence is within 600 feet.
Yes. I'm like, it should be fine.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I'm like,
I know. How many steps?
Yeah.
Okay. But usually that's the
it was just, thank you.
So does that give you the feeling of that neighborhood? And I mean, it's such a long corridor, right? To have some
goes through multiple neighborhoods.
Yeah.
As you go back.
And just having that whimsy, and I mean,
well, it goes.
Right,
it goes past several schools.
Yeah.
It goes past senior centers, and a lot of people enter the dog run in Mitchell Park from that corridor. There's just a lot going on. And you have commuters going to 101 as you get closer to San Antonio and all of that. So her work seems really approachable to me. I think it
Yeah.
suits all these neighborhoods.
That corridor, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of a theme throughout.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's neat.
I'm just curious why you're coming twice to the commission, like once to approve the artist and once with the concept. Wouldn't we just? Doesn't the selection?
Because we'd have to put the artist under contract, which would encumber the funds. So we come to the commission to get the approval to engage the artist
I see.
in the process,
Okay.
and then we would come back with the specific proposal.
Okay.
And in order to for this to give the artist direction, have you determined what scope, like what kinds of things you'd like them to pursue in their proposal for?
Well, they would need to come meet with the team, but this is really what they've been given. So the next step would be we would get the artist under contract. We would bring the artist down to meet with the design team and key stakeholders to really talk through where are those opportunities, and what is it we're looking for. So this is what she's been given on a preliminary basis. But once we get her under contract, then we can really bring her in. And that's the thing with working with artists that we love, is sometimes we bring them to the table and they have a completely different idea that's so much better. So so we don't like to limit them, but this is what we've given is more obvious opportunities for them to integrate.
Cool.
Well, I like, excuse me, I like her because limited budget, but she seems to be able to take existing things and add on to that, and very innovative in that way. So I think she'll do well with, and it's such a long corridor,
It's
and probably so many different opportunities for art that it's going to be difficult to really cite pieces and things that they want to do. So, and $90K is not a lot of money at all. So, very ambitious too. Now, is there opportunities to add to that pot of money along the way, some way, or?
Well, there would be an opportunity. I think it makes sense to bring her under contract for the original budget amount, and as we get into those discussions, if we feel like it makes sense to do something like that, we could come back to the commission and perhaps request some of the pooled municipal funds to supplement the budget. But part of the reason she was chosen is that she has a lot of experience leveraging these budgets and making it really stretch. So we could certainly do that if it really makes sense.
Yeah, a little extra money might do this project a world of good, and have art. I'm sure the art that she comes up with is going to be good, but even better. So that's what we want to look at. Okay, great. Any other questions, comments?
I move to approve Susan Ziccola for the Charleston-Rosterdaro Transit Corridor Project.
Okay, second.
Wait, did you just second?
I second.
Okay.
Hey, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? All right, thank you. Motion passes unanimously.
Okay, item 4.
Fire station number 3.
Fire station number 3 is, you recall, it's been a busy summer with selection panels. I'm just realizing it's a lot of panels. Fire station 3 is the fire station on Embarcadero Road, just adjacent to the Palo Alto Arts Center. This is the rendering, and it's don't get too married to it because things are still in flux, but just to give you a sense of the loose style of the building. So Embarcadero Road, you see the 2 bays where the trucks would exit onto Embarcadero Road. On the Newell side of the building, you can see that's the pedestrian entrance. So there's a small sort of plaza area. There would be benches incorporated there, perhaps a bike sort of service station. As you may know, especially if you've been here around the time school is either coming in or letting out, there are so many students coming and going from Jordan along there. You also, on the back end of the park, you've also got the elementary school on the other side, Walter Hayes, and a lot of them come streaming across to go to the community center. So it's a very, very heavily bike trafficked corridor. So here is just an aerial view to give you a sense. Here is the area we've been focused on primarily for artwork. Some of the feedback we've gotten both from the Architectural Review Board and the neighborhood is, can you find a way to draw people to that entrance and let them know while the building may feel, someone else used this word and I can't find a better one, bunker-like, that to make it feel more friendly, that we do want to welcome families there and we do want to welcome visitors there, and they will be doing bike registrations and things like that. So we want the plaza to be more engaging. Again, this is a budget that's extremely challenged. It's a $50,000 budget. And we have this library sign that's going in across the street. And so we want to be mindful of not creating visual chaos by trying to outdo that. We really want to be harmonious with our neighbors. The selection panel for this one include Commissioner Olmsted, Catherine Capriles she's the Deputy Fire Chief, Ken Edwards, who is, or was, now he's gone, one of our Coverly artists, who is a former firefighter as well. Fred Metzger, who is the architect. Lucy Larson, who's on the education team from the Palo Alto Arts Center. And Raina Halpern. So here were the project goals that were determined to draw attention to the visitor entrance, make it more inviting, enhance bike and pedestrian safety in the vicinity of the fire station. So I don't know that the artwork can actually enhance bike safety, but being mindful of bike and pedestrian safety along that corridor. Again, the budget's extremely limited. So again, we want an artist to join the design team to integrate. And we're most likely, with this limited budget, looking at something that's functional, like seating, like bike racks, maybe a combination of the two. We had talked about perhaps doing some enhancements in the architecture around the entrance, so we did consider some artists who might be able to do something like that. And again, here's our criteria that we used when we interviewed the artists. So let's see. Let's go. So we had 19 artists we brought to this particular panel. 4 artists were interviewed, and Pete Beeman was selected. And what's really interesting is Pete Beeman was actually one of the finalists for the Charleston-Arostradero corridor. So everyone really liked his work, but then for the Charleston-Arostradero corridor, he didn't quite make sense for that project. And it was really kind of a heartbreak for some people to make that determination, which sometimes it is. You love an artist, but it's not the right project for them. This one, they hands down determined this was absolutely the right project for Pete Beeman. So again, Pete is very well seasoned in public art. He splits his time on the East Coast and the West Coast. He comes from an engineering background, which is really great because he knows his business. He knows how to create something that will really last, and he tends to like to create these kind of fun pieces that actually move, so kinetic or crank elements to them. This is not one of them, but this is just one of his large standalone pieces. This was a piece where it's just visually shielding some mechanicals for this building, and it's a heavy bike traffic area, so we really like this idea of playing with the gears. So we thought, okay, well, he could integrate with the wall or the building potentially, and go to the next detail. And we really liked the fact that he could play with all the different materials.
That looks great.
Yeah, we had a similar response.
It's fun.
So this was a different wayfinding project. These were stationed throughout an area. The second one in actually is a topiary. So now it's hard to tell it was ever a gear. It's got plants growing all over it. This, and we won't go to the video for the sake of time, but this is a piece where you see the dark circle at the bottom. Someone sits there and cranks it, and all of the elements come up and then back down. And I believe this one was at a firehouse at Well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so So on the bottom left, it's sort of your selfie photo op that he created in this neighborhood. And the piece at the top, we have another slide of it, right? So this is actually a bench on a track, and you can sit on the bench and crank it, and it'll crank you back and forth. And so the representatives from the fire department really liked the fact that it wasn't cartoony or campy, but it was playful and it was interactive, and they sort of got the aesthetic, but there was a warmth even to the industrial materials, and I think that's really what that played really well here ultimately in Pete's favor. And just
The water tower's awesome too.
and oh, he didn't do the water tower, but that's okay. But also just the way he talked about, having worked with firefighters before with that previous kinetic piece, and that they're kind of, they're kind of a unique bunch, and that he really liked working with them. And the representative from the fire department really said, I could see working with this guy, and I'm excited to meet him. So I think that's our last slide for Pete.
I also love that notion as like an art element to a playground.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You think of kids around fire stations and kids in that area especially because there's that school, a library, there's so much there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But something fun and playful, but not necessarily competing with the sign across the way or
Right, I
anything
know,
like
yeah.
that. So we feel like he would have the right aesthetic. I can't say that he's going to do a crank bench because as soon as I say that, he will do something completely different.
Right, yeah, no.
But everyone was excited to see what he might come up with for us.
It's great.
Yeah, it's dynamic.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
What's the timeline on that fire station?
I think they're still trying to get the everything in line for the temporary fire station when that one's closed. So I haven't heard where that's going or those logistics.
Yeah.
But I believe they were talking about trying to break ground on that next summer.
That sounds right, yes.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
One thing I wrote down was bike racks with a question mark. I don't think bike racks would even work there. I mean, why would you want to park your bike there, other than visiting?
Well, they do bike registrations there.
Oh, okay.
So there will be bike racks and there's going to be a bike repair station. But one of the things we did look at were artists who had a history of doing bike racks because we thought, well, maybe someone can do
they
something
don't have to
like
look like bike racks. That's
Absolutely.
my thing about bike racks. You want to have something playful with those as well. Okay, we need a motion to approve Pete Beeman.
I move to approve Pete Beeman for the Fire Station 3 project.
Thank you. Second.
I'll second that.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Another good project. All right, item 5 has been deleted. Item 6 is assumption of artwork.
Okay. So this is a little bit of just a housekeeping issue. I think we brought this to you a few months ago just as a discussion item. The Roth building. So the Roth building, which is located on Homer and, is that Bryant, Mila? Is that Bryant? I think it's Bryant.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Anyway, on Heritage Park, it's the former Palo Alto Medical Foundation building. It was acquired by the city in 2000. Since that time, the History Museum has been working to raise funds so that they could convert it into a museum. Right now, it's closed off. The frescoes in the front of the building are protected because there is chain link fence along the front, so people actually can't get to them. We've had conservators look at them, and we're supposed to have a proposal pretty soon about what it would cost to completely restore them. They're actually in very good shape. But since the building was acquired by the city, the artworks were actually never acquired into our collection formally. So the frescoes are of quite a bit of significance. This artist worked with Diego Rivera, and what was interesting was I recently was in Mexico City last summer, and can you go to one of the ones that shows one of the black and white details underneath? And underneath the color frescoes, which highlight modern medicine, there were these gray and white ones, and this is, you see someone casting out the demons, right? This idea that sickness was a demon or a devil. And there were similar treatments in the Diego Rivera frescoes I saw with that same black and white treatment underneath, which I found really striking. But what we have here is a real treasure, and we will want to restore them and look out for them. But is a bit of housekeeping. We do need to formally accession them into the collection. And then there are also, so there are the larger panels, and then there are these 4 which are actually on the front of the building. So they've suffered a little bit more damage because they're actually exposed to the elements. If you recall, frescoes, they are much more durable than a mural because the pigmentation is actually embedded into the plaster. So we're thrilled to have them, but we also want to make sure that we can properly care for them.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
So, I love them, but why are we moving, or why are we considering doing the accession now if we don't know how much it will cost to restore them? Just on pure merit?
Well, essentially, we own them anyway.
Okay.
It's we need to formally recognize them in the collection. They belong to the city of Palo Alto, and we have an obligation to care for them.
Yep. Okay.
That is a good question.
I mean,
because
we might own them, but
yeah.
do we take on the responsibility of maintaining them without knowing what that financial that's I just sort of why
that's something that would be negotiated at the time that construction takes place in the building. If there's a different occupant, that would be a negotiating. That would be a piece that would be negotiated.
And your recommendation is based on the fact that they're just it's sort of like paperwork that hasn't been completed.
Yes.
To close the loop there.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? These are important works of art, so I think just formally put them into the collection is great. I can't believe they're just sitting there, though.
I know, they are. You can go up there.
Yeah,
they're really cool.
You have to look through the chain link fence, but yes.
You
and
can
the
see
conservators actually, we said, is there anything we should do? And they said, don't cover them up. You'll trap moisture in there. They're actually, it's great because they're somewhat shielded and protected there, and it allows for subtle changes in wall temperature and moisture. So
I'm glad you asked
they're
me.
actually, they're in a great state right now.
I'm impressed.
Well, should I move the accession of frescoes into the collection by Victor Arnautoff? These are located at 300 Homer Street on the former Palo Alto Medical Clinic, now owned by the city of Palo Alto.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? Abstain? Thank you. Motion passes unanimously. Item 7 is adoption of the 2-year work plan that we discussed at the retreat. There we go.
So there was a lot of things discussed at the retreat. We covered a whole lot of ground in 4 hours. And so in looking at the work plan, we did evaluate, what all we already have underway, which was really exciting to think about how many of these things we're doing, we're accomplishing. But also focusing on prioritizing what some of the next steps are and what still needs to be done. And one of the things that really came up is the public art master plan itself has been adopted, but really we need to complete the policy and ordinance piece of it. And so there was a request that we try and get that done by November or potentially the end of the calendar year, so that we can carry on with some of these other projects that we want to take on. So activating the alleys through code art is another priority. Addressing the artworks identified as high priority for conservation through conservation or deaccession. Research and outreach for ideas to bring artwork to the pedestrian and bike tunnels at University Avenue, California Avenue, and Embarcadero Road. And focus on the education and outreach efforts through social media, events, and mobile device applications. Did I miss anything? Y'all were there too. Feel free to jump in. I mean, that was just from a staff standpoint what we captured as the goals, and then we'll come back with individual more detail on each of these things.
Yeah. I know the policies and the ordinance documents were talked about a lot. So.
Well, because it's like things that we want to do, like kind of require that
Right.
in place. So.
Number 3 requires number 1 to get done.
Yes.
Now, is the work plan going to be calendar year, commission year? When is the 2-year period start?
Well, that's a good question. We talked about a 2-year work plan. What do you think?
I like calendar year.
So
We could just
Yeah. So it gives us a little bit of time now to fine tune this. January we start, and then like every 6 months we can review it. And then tweak it if we need to.
So you're thinking this would start for 2017, 2018?
Yeah.
Well, what is your
What's the fiscal?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
It'll be July to June.
Yeah.
Or it
What's
could
your
be a
work?
commission year, which could be April to March. So 3 options. So any one of those would be.
Well, it could also be from retreat to a retreat 2 years from now as well. I mean, I think
We do an annual.
yeah, it's sort of.
But it kind of it can get arbitrary the timing of the
Sometimes.
That's true.
retreat. That's
I think some of it hinges though on your workload, your
Mhm.
team's workload. I mean, so you have the ordinance documents there for no later than the end of the calendar year, so it technically is already starting,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean,
Yeah,
well,
number
the fiscal
1
year
is
just
happening
started
now.
not that long ago, so
Yeah.
this could be, going, through next summer and then summer of 18? Could be another way to go about it.
I like the school year. That's just the way my brain
Just
works.
September.
Labor Day.
September to August. Do we have a consensus of when we want to start this 2-year plan?
Well, I think we're starting the policy and ordinance piece from a staff standpoint. Now we're working to try and get those moving.
And you've been working on them all along anyway, right? I mean, so,
It's just getting through the final hurdles,
yes.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the adoption of the 2-year work plan starting at fiscal 20 start of the fiscal year, which was back in
July
of
yes.
2016. Yeah. So
So
sort of
it would be
backdating
fiscal
it.
year 17,
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
starting this past July.
July
Right.
is
Yeah.
20, yes, fiscal year
Okay.
FY17.
Second.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
All those in favor?
Oh my gosh.
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, abstained. Thank you. We have a
Great.
action plan.
We're on the highway.
This is-
Okay, that's good.
And we're,
Y'all are like, okay, I'll move.
and we're 3 months into the action plan, so
We're cooking with gas.
yeah,
Here we go.
We're going.
Thank you,
All right.
everybody.
Ben, go.
All right, last item of the evening is a logo branding development.
Okay. So
And
we'll
this is an
try.
allocation of funds of $5,000 to support this development.
That's correct. So we had discussed in some of our outreach to the community, there's a lot of confusion between the public art program and our colleagues at the Art Center.
Yeah.
And with the new public art master plan, the new mission, the new vision, it seems like an ideal time for us to kick off a new brand logo feel. So we started Marina, our summer intern, did a lot of research on various design firm options. Commissioners Ross and Taylor also offered a couple of potential designers that we contacted and vetted a little bit, and sort of wanted to see if they might be the right fit. These are some of the goals for the new mission and vision. We did sort of settle on, what was it, 3 different options that we brought back to you and to Nia for some input. And so we came, this company Public, we'll start here. So here's some examples of other logos. This was just some of our research. Some of these we showed in the previous commission meeting. So here's the initial research. We got estimates from 4 design companies. So we met with Commissioners Ross and Taylor to go through some of those and gather some input. And ultimately, we decided on Public Design. Public Design has done quite a bit of work for SF MoMA. We have some of their sample works here.
You really got in there and negotiated with them, didn't you?
Oh, we beat them up.
Oh, good.
But yes, they were willing to play ball with us. And we're really excited about working with them. So what's really great about Public Design is when you bring them in, and we intend to use the Public Art Master Plan is really a guiding document for them. Show them what the vision is. But they get, I believe it was 5 different designers who work on your project. So each of them may have different design aesthetics, look, feel, and whatnot. And then they bring 5 to 7 logo studies back to the client. So you know, it's not just one designer you're getting multiple designers. And then you choose a direction, refine, move on from there. But the thing we really liked about them was, A, the process seemed like you really had access to a lot more talent. And B, if you look at their logos, we were really impressed with the clarity, the diversity of types of styles, but they really seemed to have the right aesthetic and look and feel. And so that is who we are recommending to move forward with.
That is exciting. Wow.
I kind of like the Tweedle and Toots.
It's super cute, right? Like,
I don't know what it is, but it makes me want to check it out.
And the Jewish Film Festival, look how colorful and, just grabs you,
Lila Rose.
Well, that's cute.
It's great.
Yeah.
And then they have a whole series of requirements they have to satisfy to do a city logo too.
Well, there are design guidelines that they have to work within, and so we'll work very closely with the city manager's office. So we don't have to adhere to the green circle, but it does have to play nicely with our City of Palo Alto logo.
Yeah.
And their sort of clean aesthetic, I don't think that's going to be a challenge for them. But yes, as we move forward, we would definitely have the city contact who's sort of keeps an eye out for that. She would be on board with us as we move forward.
It looks like they have such a broad range of clients, but I do like the fact that they have worked with sort of creative organizations, art museums, and can bring sort of that whatever that difference is, that where the public art program for the city as opposed to just, sort of regular city agency.
Right.
So I'm excited to see what
The creativity was there.
Yeah.
And there's no limit of colors. It doesn't have to just be green.
It cannot be red.
It does not just have to be green. It just has to play nicely with the green.
So red is...
Yeah, red would be like Christmas, right?
I know, but they're like complementary colors on the color wheel.
Yeah.
They go together. That's crazy. Somebody said that isn't an artist, basically. No red and green.
Did someone actually?
Sorry.
Is that
no,
actually
I
a
don't know.
rule?
I'm on camera, so I offend someone.
Well, maybe the eye cancels it out to brown. or something. You know, like maybe there's like a reflection that I don't know. I haven't studied my optics anytime recently, but
Your color wheel.
yeah, well, no, that I know. But what your eye does with green and red.
They're great examples, so thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this sounds like it's really moving along. It's a
We're excited.
fun project.
And what is
I
your
envy you.
timing?
I envy you.
What is the timing?
They said they could do something, within a couple of months. We could have it all
Wow, great.
all tied up. And because we essentially have a package we can give them. We have the design guidelines for the city. We have our public art master plan.
Yeah, it's a lot of
You know,
material.
I mean, that right there gives them a lot of the material and the language. The point is, I don't think we want to lead them too much. Like, well, I kind of like this logo, but I don't like
Yeah.
that logo. Like, let's just let them go blue sky
think
and
so,
see what they
too.
come back with, and say, it has to not clash with our City of Palo Alto logo. Other than that,
Yeah,
turn
no
them
con-
loose.
No constraints. Yep.
Because we do get to tweak a little bit. So if they come back with something that's not the right color or it's a little too busy, like they get to revise. We did negotiate the price down to a certain point, so there are not endless revisions, and we can't, it can't be designed by committee. But
Right.
we feel confident that this group will deliver something we're really pleased with.
Great.
That's exciting.
Great. So before the holidays, we could possibly have something.
We could.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Great.
I'm hopeful. It would be a great way to kick off the new year.
Yeah, it sure would. Be a great present. All right, so I'm going to make the motion to allocate $5,000 to support the development of a public art program logo and related templates.
Second.
Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Abstain? Thank you. Motion passes. And all these have been great tonight. Fun
We try.
projects and fun things. Like I said,
Really.
we haven't had a meeting for 3 months, so we get all this good stuff.
It was a big night.
Okay, any announcements?
We have a couple calendar items.
Okay, for your calendar.
Yes, I saw that. What is this on October 14th?
So we're really excited. We have Erica Behrens, who represents the U.S. offices for Franz Meyer of Munich. They're an architectural glass and mosaic company, and so we're really reaching out to artists, architects, planners, people who are interested to learn. As something goes from a sketch to a major public art piece, what that process looks like, what kind of materials are available, and what that transition looks like. So we're doing that at the Art Center on that Friday afternoon, October 14th. I believe it's 3 p.m.
Okay.
And you should feel free to come. It should be really interesting and really informative.
Is that open or is it invitation? Or?
No, it is open to the public, and everyone is welcome and encouraged to come. I think it's a great educational opportunity and a great way to reach out to our artists who have been asking, how do I make that leap to public art? So here's an opportunity for them to learn a little bit more about how that happens.
Okay, now this is Nadia's last meeting?
For a little bit.
For a little
Keep
bit.
us posted.
Oh, some
We'll send pics.
photos. Yes,
I
for
guess
sure.
I will do this in the next 4 months.
Okay, well, Nadia, thank you very
We'll miss
much
it.
for everything that you've done for us, and all the best with the baby.
Best wishes.
Yeah, yeah. And we'll know the name here in a little bit,
Absolutely.
right?
Really
As soon as she
exciting.
gives me permission, I'll kick it out.
Well, my daughter was almost 3 weeks late, so. Right,
That's-
meeting is
oh,
adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben.